Yes, please go ahead.
Warm greetings, everyone. On behalf of W4W Foundation, a think tanks instituted as a citizens collective, we welcome you for another session for Wednesdays for Water. The conversation today is a part of biodiversity series. A session is titled Hidden in Plain Sight: The Secret World of Shrimps. We also run another series such as pollution series, water anxiety series, riverscape series, education series, and we are inching towards 200 sessions. A feat that we are proud of and looking forward to continuing the conversations. At W4W, we believe that water conversations is crucial for water conservation. The objective for Wednesdays for Water is to engage in conversation with water experts, grassroots practitioners, policymakers, and youth to explore the complex intervened issues associated with water and the possible solutions. It has expanded since then to have more activities like Fridays for Water and Monday Munching with Women for Water, besides organizing water workshops, water walks and talks, seminars, special courses, and conference panels to continue water conversation in various possible ways. Please visit our website w4w for more details. My name is Nitya Bankapalli, a senior research fellow from W4W Foundation. I'm a marine and wildlife biologist by profession. Today, I'm the moderator for the session for W4W. The session, Hidden in a Plain Sight: The Secret World of Shrimps, is co hosted with Saki Waters. I'm honored to invite Dr. Jaiti Chowdhury and this as a discussant in the session, and Dr. Mansi as the host of the session. Shrimps may look very small and simple, but they are among the most ecologically significant and economically valuable organisms in the aquatic ecosystem. From freshwater rivers to fisheries to vast marine environment, shrimps play a crucial role in maintaining food webs, nutrient cycling, and supporting livelihoods through the fisheries and aquaculture. In marine ecosystems, they form an essential link in the food chain, serving as a prey for fishes, rays, marine mammals, and many other species. Beyond the ecology, shrimps are the central global seafood industries and coastal economies. I invite the speaker one, Dr. Prakash. Dr. S. Prakash is a trained marine biologist, completed masters in marine science from Bharati Dasan University and PhD in marine biology from Annamalai University. Currently, he is an associate professor from Center for Climate Change Studies, Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. His area of research includes systematics, physiology, and molecular ecology. Presently, his lab is engaged in understanding the impact of climate change on marine invertebrates with special emphasis on coral reef shrimp physiology, biogeography, and evolutionary ecology. He has been awarded with a Fulbright Nehru postdoctoral research fellowship to conduct research at Clemson University, South Carolina, USA during August 16th and August 18th. Sir, we welcome you.
Shall I start?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much once again. I am Prakash, and today we will dive into the secret world of a shrimp. So, what is a shrimp? It's a small aquatic 10-legged crustaceans which comes under the group called decapods. Deca means 10 and poda means legs, right? And as said in the introduction, it was present in freshwater, saline water, and including the polar as well as the higher altitude, right? And it has a semi-transparent body, a sharp bend here, right? And then you have a flexible skeleton, or we call it as abdomen. And it's highly popular, versatile seafood. Of course, we all know that the shrimps are highly consumed, right? But it is also popular in the aquarium trade, right? So whatever the shrimps I am dealing today is mostly used in the aquarium trade, right? So two major groups. One is a pinnate and as well as second one is the carriage, right? And in pinnate, whatever the food or the commercial shrimps will fall under this pinnate, right? So how you can easily separate it is you can see the abdominal segments, right? One is one, two, three, four, five, six segments are continuously layered, right? And you can see the kind of legs which is having a claw, right? So first three pairs of legs are having a claw, right? So this falls under the pinnate group. And then the second group is a cheridia, where you have a second abdomen that has been overlapping the first as well as the third segment, right? And only first two pairs of legs are having a claw, right? And another differentiation in pinnates as well as carriage is pinnates used to disperse the egg in the water. So the fertilization is completely external. But in terms of carriage, it usually holds the eggs in the abdomen, right? So we call it as the integument region. So it holds the eggs in the abdomen, and the fertilization as well as the embryonic development usually happens internal, right? And only the larvae comes out of the shrimps. And there is another class or infraorder which we call it as a ctenopodidia, right? So most of the coral reef shrimps or most of or the entire class of ctenopodids will fall under the coral reef shrimp category, right? So how it looks? The body part looks like spinach, right? Where you have a continuous abdomen and three pairs of claws, but the biology is looks like a iridian, where it holds the eggs in the abdomen region, right? So these are the three major class, and what we have been dealing today is mostly on the carids as well as the ctenopodids. So moving on to Caridian shrimps, there are close to 40 families have been described and close to 3,500 species have been discovered worldwide. And the coral reef shrimps, meaning the shrimps that are available only in the coral reef environment, right? Which is the coral reefs are widely distributed in the Indo-Pacific as well as the Caribbean waters, right? So you can find these colorful shrimps, especially in these coral reef inhabited water. It has ecological as well as the morphological disparity, right? So we will see that in a minute. And it helps to maintain the ecological balance, right? And not only the ecological balance, it has been supporting the livelihood of fishermen through the aquarium trade, right? Uh, since these shrimps are colorful, the fishermen and the other hobbyists are exploiting these coral reef shrimps for a aquarium trade, right? So being a coral reef shrimps, you by default you will have some of the characteristics which is born with it, right? So one is the dazzling coloration, right? The shrimps are more colorful. It has been delicate, right? So very sensitive to handle, not like the commercial shrimps, and it has a bizarre morphology, right? So you will have like different shapes, sizes, and right different body parts, and it has to display unusual reproductive traits. So we will also see that in a detail, and it has to exhibit a symbiotic behavior. So in coral reef environment, most of the shrimps display symbiotic behavior, right? Hardly few species stay as a free living form, and it also perform fish cleaning, right? So this looks different, but we will see what it is. And since these are like highly used for the aquarium trade, it also control the algal deposition in the aquarium if you are keeping shrimps in your home aquarium, right? So as I mentioned before, symbiosis stands at the forefront, especially in the coral reef, right? The first one is the camel shrimp, which is a free living form and usually stays in aggregate, right? Second one, we commonly call it as a sexy shrimp, and you can see the base, the green color bubble like, right? So these are like sea anemones, okay? So these shrimps are associated with sea anemones, and you have a sea cucumber associated shrimp, right, which has been discovered recently in 2007, I could say, right? So these are cucumber associated shrimp. You have a sea urchin, right? Again, a different invertebrate, and it also holds a shrimp with it, right? And these, as I said before, these shrimps also act as a cleaning stations What it means? You have a large moray eels, large groupers, and large fishes that will be coming near to these shrimps and stays near to them. And what these shrimps does is they go and pick the parasites from their body, and they pick the food matter that is hiding inside their teeth. Okay, so those kind of a cleaning uh, help will be done by these kind of shrimps. So that's why we call them as a cleaner shrimp. Okay, so these are free living, but mostly depend on the big fishes and then the groupers and eels for their living. And another characteristic example is about the crinoids, right? So here in this picture, you can see crinoids. Crinoids are nothing but the feather stars, right? So here also I have put some representative examples of feather stars, right? These feather stars also hold variety of shrimps along with it, right? So here you can see some of the shrimps, again different color, you can see different shapes, right? And then different morphology. So another classical example, as I was also telling to Mansi that we also do night dives, right? So once you do the night dive, you can, excellently see with the help of a torchlight, like what are the organisms that are in the underwater, right? And during one of our dives in Agatti Island, we have found these crinoids that is hosting a shrimp with it, right? So once we start collected it and then observing under the microscope, we could see clearly there is a shrimp that has been associated with these crinoids, right? And another example of soft coral associated shrimps, right? And especially the coral, soft coral, and sponge associated shrimps are having a kind of a behavior called eusociality, right? So where you can see eusociality is mainly in the honeybee. Okay, so what is it? There will be a big queen, and there will be three or four subordinate males, and then there will be like plenty of worker bees will be surrounding in a small beehive, right? So similarly, in this type of a coral or a sponge, you have this kind of a shrimp called synalpid shrimp, which would be growing inside these kind of a branches, right? So we call this as a cauliflower coral in a common name. And these kind of shrimps usually thrive in these kind of branches. So there will be, but instead of one big female, in terms of a shrimps, we will have multiple females. Okay, so there will be multiple generations, there will be overlapping generations, and then there will be a cooperative defense. So if any predator is attacking this soft coral or sponge, there is a possibility that these shrimps use to defend their host, right? And another classical example is a harlequin shrimp. We call it as a tail of harlequin because you can see a bizarre morphology. The female is always larger and male is smaller. You can see a big claw which is having a kind of a paddle shape, right? So it usually move like a kind of a slow motion, wavy motion. And you have a male that is slightly smaller than the female. And the distinct feature of this shrimp, it takes 70% of their diet as a starfish, right? So these shrimps usually go near the starfish and it used to lift the hand because if you keep the starfish intact, it used to move, right? So what this shrimp does is in order to eat the starfish, it totally turns the starfish, right? And then start eating on the feet so that the starfish may not able to turn down and then move fast, right? So one small video which I would like to play here. So this is how the shrimps usually walk in the coral reef, like on top of the coral reef. Pan-tropical distribution means it is available from Indian waters, Pacific waters, as well as the Atlantic waters. Okay. moving on to the next part of understanding about shrimps is about the reproductive physiology. Since I said that these shrimps are highly exploited for the ornamental trade, understanding the shrimp physiology or the breeding biology is very much important so that we can breed in captive conditions and then sell it to the hobbyists or the farmers so that we can minimize the impact on the wild population, right? So there are three types, right? So one is the gonochoric, where you have separate male and separate female, right? And then second one is a protandry, where you have 50% of the population, right, will stay as a male, and remaining 50% will convert its sex into female, right, upon maturity. And there is a third type, which is very evident in cleaner shrimps, right, which is the protandric simultaneous hermaphroditism. The term looks difficult, but all the shrimps which born will born as a male, right? So upon maturity and growth, it all converts into female, right? So though it converts into female, it holds the male reproductive potential. Okay, so we will see that as an example. And in gonochoric shrimp, there is also a characteristic feature called male morphotype, right? So there is a big male and there will be small subordinate males, right? So here you can also see the difference in the third maxillipede as well as the major callipes. Okay, so these subordinate these large males, or we call it as a robustest male, are highly dominant, and it will not allow any other males to come nearby during the mating season or the mate body. So mating in gonochoric shrimp, three behavior. One is touching. So it used to touch the females with the help of callipeds and antennas. Overlapping. So overlapping behavior will happen, and then finally the holding behavior, where the males turn the female 45-degree and then transfer the spermatophore. So similarly, it's a mating in protandric shrimp, where we have the possibility to observe under the laboratory conditions. Similar type of behavior, how it has been, because you have 50% of the population that is staying as a male, and then remaining 50% will be converting into a female. And in terms of mating in hermaphroditic shrimp, right? So here you have both the females, right, holding an egg, right? And in another picture, you can see that even though it holds the egg, it has the possibility to mate with another female in order to make it happen, right? So 7 stereotyped actions have been recorded. One is a contact, climb, straddle, like holding, mount, dip, leopard, beat, and then disengage. So I'm not reading all the behavior, but I could be happy to share the slides so that anyone could be taken. And lastly, we have also understand like any other species, since we talk more about the coral reefs are highly susceptible for the change in temperature or acidification, right? So the associated species also impacted equally when the corals are getting affected, right? So we had the possibility to test like how these coral reef shrimps are adapting to the climate change conditions. So we have done some of the physiological parameters and then understand how the antioxidant enzymes and other physiological responses are happening with the help of climate change. So with this, I will stop here, and thanks once again to W4W Foundation, Mansi, and then Nitya for facilitating, and for my entire team at Center for Climate Change Studies, Satyabama. Thank you. I think I am on time, Nitya, or it's exceeded.
Yes.
Okay. I will do the stop sharing. I will be happy to take any questions.
Can I ask a question, please?
Nitya, are you around? Yeah.
Can
Yes,
I
sir.
ask a question?
Ajit sir, we will take the questions after both the presentations. So please hold your question.
Okay. Sorry.
You know that we have a very good time for Q&A, and we look forward to it. I see that Nitya may be having some power cut issues and network, but if you are still around, Nitya, or should I start the...
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you?
Yes, I will. No
take over?
problem. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Prakash, for this wonderful presentation. I am always elated to meet our fellow creatures of this planet. But without further ado, may I just invite now Mr. MacLean Anthony Santos, and before I hand over the screen to him, I would like to introduce him. MacLean Santos is a naturalist and native shrimp enthusiast with over 8 years of experience of documenting freshwater shrimp diversity in Karnataka. He is a recipient of the prestigious Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Young Research Fellowship and has contributed to the discovery of new species from Karnataka, as well as recent discovery of genus from mainland India after 72 years. His work focuses on conservation, awareness building, and exploring the ornamental potential of native shrimp species. Through scientific contributions, popular articles, and educational webinars, he is actively addressing knowledge gaps and promoting appreciation of for India's lesser-known aquatic biodiversity. I must also highlight here that we are always excited to have young scholars presenting on this platform, and we try to keep this format as a young and a seasoned scholars who can come together and present. Over to you, MacLean, and we are really looking forward to your presentation.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful introduction, ma'am. Kindly give me a minute. I'll share my PPT.
Sure.
I would assume it is visible.
Yes, please go ahead.
Perfect. So, good evening, everyone. Myself, MacLean Santos. First of all, I would like to thank Mansi ma'am and her team for the wonderful introduction, and also for providing me an opportunity to talk about freshwater shrimps. Prakash sir just now spoke about marine shrimps, and in my presentation, I'm going to talk about their freshwater counterparts, that is, the freshwater shrimps. So, usually, when someone talks about freshwater aquatic bodies and their inhabitants, the first thing which comes to our mind are the charismatic or the bigger species which are found in and around water. These species could include frogs, snakes, or most of the people's personal favorite, that is, the freshwater fishes. But do you know that even among all these bigger organisms, there are many smaller organisms. Even though they are very small in size, they tend to play a very important role in food chain. One such small organism is something which I have had the opportunity to work on, and that is the freshwater shrimps. While India has 6 genera of freshwater shrimps from 3 different families, in today's session, I'm only going to talk about genus Caridina, which is considered one of the most widespread and common genus, not only in mainland India, but also the Andaman Islands. So a little bit about genus Caridina. These are also known as dwarf shrimp. The reason for that is their size. Usually, the shrimps are anywhere between 3 centimeter or less than 3 centimeter. This small size of the shrimp, I would say, has both advantages and disadvantages. On the positive side, because of their small size, species from this genus are very popular in the aquarium trade, especially among people who like to keep planted aquariums, nano aquariums, or even shrimp-specific aquariums. But on the downside, because of their small size and cryptic nature, very less scientific work has been done on this genus, especially from Indian waters. If I had to particularly talk from India, there are around 28 species, out of which exactly 50%, that is 14 species, are recorded from the biodiversity hotspot, that is the Western Ghats region. Even though freshwater shrimps play a very important role in food chain, they also have a lot of economical value. Very less work has been done to check the extinction risk. Globally, only 28% of the freshwater shrimps have been assessed for the extinction risk. Unfortunately, there is no prominent work from Indian waters. Therefore, our team is also working on adding on to this knowledge through our work in Karnataka. So now that we know a bit on genus Caridina, the next question which naturally arises is where exactly to find these Caridina shrimps in the wild? What would be their major habitat preference? I always joke around and I say that as long as the water body is clean, one is always able to find Caridina shrimps. But if I had to talk about the major habitat preference, that would be rivers, rocky pools, and ponds. And based on these environments or based on these environmental factors, the species which you find in each of this environment would also be very different or very distinct. Now the question is, where exactly to find the species in these habitats? Because when I say a river habitat, it is a very generalized habitat. Which specific area to focus in river habitat so that we could find Carina shrimps? So usually when we go to an aquatic body and when we look into the aquatic body, it is very easy for us to spot freshwater fishes because they swim out in the open. But that is not the case when it comes to freshwater shrimps. At least freshwater shrimps from genus Caridina, has they spent most of their time either hiding among aquatic vegetation, that is picture 2 and 3, or among leaf litter, that is picture 4. Now the question is that why do these shrimps hide? Why don't they swim out in the open? The main reason is because of their size. Since these shrimps are very small in size, that is usually 3 centimeter or less than 3 centimeter, if they swim out in the open, there's a high possibility that they'll get eaten by a predator. For example, a freshwater fish. Because for fish, shrimp is a crunchy snack. So this aquatic vegetation, the first thing which it does is that it provides protection for the shrimp from the predators. The second is, if you look at the picture 3 here, in the picture, this on the aquatic vegetation, there's lot of algae. And this algae is one of the major food source for Cardina shrimps. So in this area, the basic two needs of the shrimp is met. One is shelter, that is also protection from the predators. The second is constant food source. Therefore, this area also acts as a breeding ground for adult shrimp and also has a nursery for baby shrimplets, which are the shrimp babies. Now, some of you might be thinking that, okay, Macklin, we have visited rivers, rocky pools, and ponds. We have even looked into aquatic vegetation, but we still weren't able to find Cardina shrimps. One of the reasons for that could be because these shrimps are masters of camouflage, and unless you're dedicatedly looking for Cardina shrimps, it is very hard to spot these shrimps in the wild, especially in a river habitat where the shrimps are very small. Again, I would say that certain species are slightly more visible in the wild. For example, the first two pictures here, this is a species known as Cardina chavani, and as you can see, it has blended itself in such a way that even a predator might find it very difficult to spot this shrimp. But the third picture here, which is Cardina fundandoi, the shrimp is slightly more visible. But again, I would argue that if there was a lot of leaf litter, we would also found it very difficult to spot this species in the wild. Little bit on their growth and reproduction. So how do these Carina shrimps grow? So for the timing, I've used Neo Carina pictures just to give a reference, but the breeding, the growth and reproduction is very similar. So the question is that how do these shrimps grow? So shrimps grow by a process of removing their exoskeleton. And this process, when they remove the exoskeleton, it is called molting. So the molting has two main uses for the shrimp. The first is it helps in the growth of the shrimp. The second is when a female shrimp molts, she releases pheromones in the water. And these pheromones, they act as a chemical signal indicating the male that the female is ready to breed. So once the female molts, that is when she removes her exoskeleton, the male would come near the female and it would start breeding. So once the male has bred, this saddle, that is the unfertilized eggs, this saddle would move down to the abdominal segment of the shrimp. And when a shrimp is carrying eggs, it is called a buried female. So once the female is buried, that is pregnant, she would carry the eggs for 27 to 30 days based on the species. And when she's carrying the eggs, she would also show a bit of parental care. So if you look in the video here, the shrimp, that is the adult shrimp, she is constantly moving her swimmer legs, and this process is called fanning. And the reason the shrimp does it is so that it could provide oxygenation to the eggs, and at the same time, it also makes sure that there is no fungal growth on the eggs. So this is a bit of parental care which carrying shrimp show. And once the 30 days have been completed, this is how the larvae looks like. So after a few days of the larvae would molt, and then it will start looking a bit like a miniature version of shrimp. Here, if the shrimp again molts for 1 or 2 times, it will start looking like a miniature version of the adult shrimp. Now, the biggest plot twist is whether all Carina species are freshwater. Because for the very long time, I've been saying that my talk is on freshwater shrimps. But if you look at the breeding biology of all the Carina species, we come to know that not all Carina species are freshwater. Some of them are also amphidermous. So now the question is, what does an amphidermous shrimp means? It means that the adults, they are found in freshwater environments, but the larvae, they require brackish water for their initial development. So in Caridina, even though we generally call them as freshwater shrimps, they are shrimps which have life histories both in freshwater environments and also in brackish water environments. Now the question is that how do we differentiate? How can a layman person differentiate between an landlocked carina species, that is a freshwater carina species, versus an amphidomus carina species? So one of the easiest way to differentiate it would be to look at the size and number of eggs. Usually, landlocked carina species, they have bigger eggs, but they are less in number, whereas the amphidomus carina shrimps, they are very small in size, but they are more in number. So this is one of the easiest differentiating factor. So can species be identified based on coloration? So every time we would take a session, people are very curious and they send us photos of the shrimp and they ask us saying that, Macklin, are you able to identify the shrimp? So usually we say that it could be this particular species or it might be this particular species. And whenever I use the word might, people always ask saying that, Macklin, you have been working on shrimps for quite a long time. Aren't you still able to identify the shrimp based on a picture or based on coloration alone? Therefore, because of that, I've made a dedicated slide in all my presentation explaining on why we cannot identify shrimps based on coloration alone. So there are certain species like our red-nosed shrimp, Carina hodgati, Carina gracile. These species, they are morphologically very distinct. Therefore, we can identify them based on their general appearance. But most of the Carina species, at least in the Western Ghats region, they cannot be identified based on coloration alone. So when you see a shrimp in the wild, it might have particular coloration. And when you take that shrimp, keep it in a bucket, it will start changing its coloration. So over the time, the one particular shrimp might show multiple coloration. For example, here, this is the most common species in mainland India. It is called Carina fernandoi. And as you can see different coloration on this particular species. So if you look at based on coloration alone, this looks like very distinct species, but these are all similar species just showing different coloration. So how does our team document this species? Because as I've initially mentioned that if you take the shrimp out of this environment and after some time it will change its color. So what our team does is that we take the most beautiful specimen in the wild, we put them in the tank and try to take the picture right in the wild or right after collection so that we are able to get accurate coloration of a particular species. But it is not always possible. Therefore, sometimes we get the shrimp back and we keep it in captivity. And while we keep it in captivity, we try to replicate its condition so that the coloration of the shrimp comes back again. So this is our setup here. So where we have 6 2-feet aquariums where we keep different Carina species. And this is the close-up of the setup. As you can see, we are using different substrate for different aquariums so that we could match the coloration of the shrimp. This also helps us to document their breeding biology, also helps us understand how do these shrimps act in captivity, their conditions, etc. Apart from that, our team is also very much interested to document the interaction of the shrimp with organism inside the water as well as outside the water. For example, very recently, that is, I believe last year, we had the opportunity to document a Cardina species being consumed by a strider and also a wool spider. So these kinds of interaction on freshwater shrimps in India is very less. So we are also adding on to this knowledge. So these are a few Cardina species which we have documented from Mangaluru region, that is in Karnataka. So the first two species, Carina fernandoi and Carina chavani, they are freshwater, whereas Carina gracilis and gracile, they are amphidomus Cardina species. So a little bit on our discoveries. I quickly talk a bit on our discoveries as well. So we have had the opportunity to discover a new Macrobachem species named as Macrobachem irvini from Karnataka, that is Bangalore, Karnataka. And we named this species after Steve Irwin, who is also popularly known as the crocodile hunter. Very recently, we also had the opportunity to rediscover not a species, but rediscover a genus from mainland India after 72 years. And this was done based on specimens collected not only from the western coast, but also from the eastern coast, and where we examined also the specimens from the museum collections, which were from Andaman Islands. And we came to a conclusion that only one species might be found in mainland India, that is Aethiopsis pinnipes. Even though we have been able to find so many great discoveries, that is new species rediscovery of a genus, it is also true that most of the habitats where freshwater shrimps are being found, they are constantly getting destroyed right now. And these pictures are not these pictures are not from different places in Karnataka, but it's from single place, Mangalore. So you can understand that if one small place is having so much destruction, what about the entire Karnataka? What about entire India? So these are the few places where at one point in time we were able to find 2 or 3 different species of Catarina, but at this point Catarina species don't exist in this water. Some other problems are like sand mining, as I also have explained, saying that they need aquatic vegetation. But because of sand mining, the aquatic vegetation, the areas where we used to find these shrimps, these are completely getting destroyed. So we are not able to find Catarina species in this location right now. There are also things like aggressive expansion of residential area. This is something which we need to talk about, where people are putting mud to the water areas, and they're building houses, they're building commercial areas. And because of which most of these areas where I used to find Catarina species, those areas do not exist right now. These are a few other things like untreated sewage waste disposal. Also invasive species is also a very big problem. So we have almost come to the end of the talk. So these are the few pictures from the team. The first picture is of Prakash sir holding few macrobacterium species, and the other pictures are with me with few of our field members who helped me collect different species from different regions of Karnataka. These are the few pictures of night sampling. For certain species, we also do extensive night sampling. So these are the pictures from those night sampling areas. So that's all from my side. So before ending, I would like to thank W4W Foundation, especially Mansi ma'am and Nitya, for this wonderful opportunity. I would also like to thank my mentor, Dr. Prakash Sanjeevi sir, and team member, PhD research scholar Kunju Lakshmi, for her constant support and encouragement. Thank you once again for the opportunity. Looking forward to the questions.
Nitya, are you around? Thank you so much, McLean, for this wonderful presentation. And we will open the floor for question and answers. And I know Ajit sir has already some questions, but before that, it will be it's nice to hear Jyoti and pose her questions to the speakers as a discussant of the session. Over to you, Jyoti, and thank you so much for co-organizing this series for so long. It is the longest water conversation at W4W, and we are very proud and happy to have biodiversity series. Over to you, Jyoti. Questions to both the speakers.
Hello, can you hear
Yes,
me?
we hear
Okay.
you. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'm operating through two devices, so sorry for any confusions or inconvenience. So, thank you so much, Mansi, for your kind words. And let me compliment both of our scientists, our guests today for this session. A huge thanks to Dr. Prakash and Dr. Santosh for actually making us realize that shrimps are much more than just colorless food chain player in an aquaculture pond. And thanks for showing such beautiful pictures and videos to see that they are so colorful, so vibrant. So I have started loving these shrimps. So thanks once again. Before we I ask my question, maybe we can invite our audience to maybe switch on their cameras, means their mics, and ask the questions. Or if you want, I can read it from the chat box, and then I'll ask my questions, because my questions are more of related to policies and what are like our uh, like status when it comes to their conservation, because as Santosh also mentioned that maybe due to their size or other things, like somehow like they are never studied well, so I'm like across the globe, not just in India. So thank you, Santosh, once again for your wonderful research, and Dr. Prakash. So Dr. Ajit has shared some questions. So, sir, do you want to ask your questions, or we should read them out? I think it would be nice if you could switch on your mic or camera and then ask
I'll
your
switch on my
question.
mic and ask. I'll switch on my mic and ask. No problem. I'm
Okay, okay,
Ajit
please. Thank
Ajit
you. Yeah.
Seshadri here. Can I ask?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the question can be for both Prakash, who is dealing with saltwater shrimps, and McLean, who is dealing with freshwater shrimps. Now there are these intertidal areas. Intertidal areas. I just want to ask. Maybe this question may be premature. Suppose you have a certain areas in which they are cordoned off with mangroves, uh, totally cordoned off with mangroves, and they have both fresh water and seawater due to the tides. Can breeding of these shrimps be done without any predators and others?
Uh, shall I go ahead, Maclean?
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah.
You,
Sir, you want to
Mc-
do the breeding in the mangrove areas, or you want to
in the
do the
mangrove area,
intertidal
I
breeding
want
in?
to cordon as far as possible the total area, so that the sea effect and weather effects of the sea is not there, and the intertidal area estuaries, some safe estuaries can be used for breeding of shrimps for blue economy reasons.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So what is already happening is, like, most of the mangrove areas has been converted into shrimp farm, right?
Very
And
good, very
people
good.
are already extensively using the estuarine waters and then the nearby intertidal areas for shrimp farming. So it has been extensively done in the coastal states, especially Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, uh, West Bengal, and Maharashtra. So most of the areas or most of the Indian coastal states have been utilized, or the areas of the coastal areas have been
Very good, very good.
utilized well for the shrimp farming.
That means this gets into a lot of economical gains also to the fisher
Yeah.
community.
It's already well in practice, and then there is a coastal aquaculture authority who has been monitoring all these activities.
Very good.
Uh,
Now,
Yeah.
is it mostly more of freshwater shrimps or saltwater shrimps,
It's more of
or
a
both?
saltwater shrimps, both, like more of a saltwater shrimps.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this has
Yeah,
answered
thank
my
you.
question. Thank you very much.
yeah.
Actually, we
So
have
I
been
have one. Yeah, please
we have
go.
been associated with Hindustan College in Chennai.
Okay.
Also similar college like Satyabama. I am aware of Satyabama, this marine research people, in Barasan and others, Stalin
Mm.
and others.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I have one, like, I can, Mansi, do you want to ask
No, no,
first? Because
please,
I have
Jyoti,
something
it's your time.
very,
Please go ahead.
yeah, no, I have something very much related to what Dr. Ajit has asked. So if I can also just share my question. So my question is, like, as you all are now discussing, that there's a lot of focus on blue economy, and then there's a lot of programs supporting shrimp farmers to grow their business. So in that this kind of scenario, we also see that a lot of mangroves areas are being converted into aquaculture ponds. So in such a scenario, like, how do we ensure that we still have some kind of conservation plan to protect wild variety of shrimp? Because we understand their importance in like coastal economy, but at the same time, I think we need to have some balance, and also consider shrimp as like one of the important coastal or mangrove ecosystem biodiversity players. So what is like your, I think this question is for both of you, that in such a scenario where there's a lot of focus on blue economy, how do you see that, how these wild variety species of shrimp can be conserved? So,
Actually, whatever.
Mansi, your question
Yeah.
is also related to this, so maybe you can also ask, so I think they can
No,
clap
no.
and then.
Thank you. No, Jyoti, I think let them answer. I have a very different question. Go ahead. Thank you.
So regarding the wild shrimp, whatever we are doing is like there are two major shrimps which is ruling the shrimp industry. One is the Venami, which is imported from USA, and then we also have Pinnaeus monodon, and that is a native shrimp which has been extensively cultivated all over India. And regarding the land that has been acquired for the mangrove, yes, it is there, but there are also like certain rules in place where now the people have been restricted, right? So they are providing a separate space if you want to convert your barren land into a farm, right? So mangrove areas are like mostly restricted, and there is also mangrove restoration practices are also in place, right? So that will eventually increase the nursery grounds for the wild shrimp. So you can't convert entirely mangrove into a shrimp farm for blue economy, but the growing of or the afforestation of mangroves is also equally important to maintain the wild shrimp population. So like conservation and development, so both has to go like hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see there is Dr. Rajiv Bhatkar who has a different point of view. So maybe McLean, if you are responding, and then we invite Rajiv to speak. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So in freshwater shrimps, we do not actually consume freshwater shrimps. There are a few amphidermal species like the Macrobacterium species, which are called the long claw shrimps, such as the Rosenbergi malcolmsi. But if in terms of in terms of ornamental potential, these freshwater shrimps can be bred, and there's high demand for them even in the global aquarium trade. So what we can do is that instead of people depending on the wild population, they can get the species, and then they can start breeding the species. And it is always true that the species which are bred in captivity, they will be better adjusted to the aquarium condition than the wild caught specimens. For example, if you have 10 species which are bred in captivity and you ship them, for example, the survival rate of those 10 shrimp is very high. But if you again take 10 shrimps from the wild and you directly ship them without any acclimatization or anything like that, the overall mortality would be high. So what we can do is that we can shift our attention from the wild caught population for the aquarium trade, and then we can shift it more towards the or like the aquaculture or the ones which we have bred, so that people we are able to conserve the species, and at the same time we can also generate a source of income.
Yeah. Thank you, McLean. Maybe we get a quick overview. We rarely have there's people disagreeing with speakers, and I always love to hear that. Dr. Rajiv, would you like to unmute yourself and speak? And it's a very good platform to really place your argument.
Yeah, good evening. So
Good
I'm an
evening.
aquaculture consultant. So as I was said in my statement, I disagree with the statement that mangrove land has been converted into shrimp farm, because first of all, the Coastal Aquaculture Authority does not allow that. They have
Yeah.
very strict restrictions,
Guidelines. Yes.
rules for converting that, especially CSZ land. Secondly, there's a technical reason also. There's the soil in mangrove area is basically acid sulfate soil. That is very detrimental to the growth of animals. So you have to treat it to make it basic, like alkaline. So that entails another cost, and then removal of mangrove roots, deep-rooted mangrove roots, is also one more cost. So regarding considering all these areas are avoided by farmers. They are normally the shrimp farms come. They are constructed in areas where saline grasslands are there, which is outside the CRZ area. So that's what I would like to point out.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. And this is also a time that I must announce to all of you that we are actually over 400 sessions at Wednesdays for Water and at W for W Foundation, and Wednesdays for Water also is reaching towards 200 sessions. And I invite all of you who have a water story or a biodiversity story or allied story related to water, please reach out to us if you would like to host a session with us or be a speaker or co-speaker. We are very happy to have you on board and hear different voices, because we are really looking forward to continuing this conversation. Over to you, Nitya. Nitya now has some electricity and network. Please ask your questions. I shall stay host for now to make sure that the session runs. Over to you, Nitya. Please ask your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Masima. So, I wanted to ask Dr. Prakash and McLean. We have seen how anthropogenic activities are really affecting the invertebrates. So, my first question is, as there is no proper waste management, and we have seen a lot of biofouling, and these invertebrates take shelter in the waste, like the on the waste. How many did you have seen, and what is the consequences of these anthropogenic activities on these species, and do they have a specific least concern kind of IUCN list for these species so that we conserve them?
Martin, you can go ahead.
Oh yeah, perfect. I'll start with the IUCN status of the species.
Yeah.
Most of the species, at least in Indian waters, they are either least concerned or data deficient. So the IUCN status really doesn't help. But what we have noted is that even though we call a species has least concern, in India, most of the work is done based only on the morphological characteristics. But what we have observed is that what we call as a least concern species, when we look at that species in terms of the molecular work that is bringing using integrative taxonomy, molecular and morphological data, we have realized that what we call as a single species is rather a cryptic species of 2 or 3 species. Therefore, in order for us to actually conserve this species, we also need to revisit this species again and figure out whether what we call as a least concern species or whether what we call as a widespread species, is it actually a widespread species, or whether we are just confused with the closely related species or sister species. Regarding the different human activities, how they are affecting it. For freshwater shrimps, there are only 2 things which happen. Anytime any human waste, any types of waste enters the water, most of the time the local population is gonna get wiped out, because these shrimps are very sensitive. So they get wiped out. There are a few species which are somehow able to adjust to the conditions. Like for example, I have been telling that Carina fernando is a widespread species, but again we feel that it is widespread because it has the capacity to go again to adjust itself to the environmental factors, different like pollution, etc. As for how the shrimps are adjusting, what we have noted is that, like for example, there are areas where people throw, for example, we call them matkas, doing rituals and all, they throw the matkas. What we have observed is that the shrimp use this matkas to go in and like to hide from the predators. Not the the ghost nets. We generally consider ghost net as something which is very troublesome. But what we have observed in shrimp is that they use the ghost net. So if you take like a big net at night, especially, and you put it into the ghost net, you can easily find around like 50 to 100 shrimps in the ghost net. So these shrimps use the ghost net to hide, because the ghost net, they get some surface to attach. And also things like plastic bags, the plastic waste which they throw. I've also seen shrimps in the plastic growth, there's a lot of algae built up. So the shrimp come and graze on it. While it is not the natural way for the shrimp to do its thing, again, I would say the shrimp is slowly adjusting. But the number of species which are adjusting, I would say that if there are 10 species in one aquatic environment, and if the anthropogenic activities get to that environment, I would say at least 9 species would die. Only one species which is slightly more adjustable to that condition, that would survive.
Okay, nice.
I'll
Jaydeep?
add one point.
Yeah,
I'll add
please
one
add.
point
Prakash,
so that,
please add. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So other than pollution and all other aspects, what I could see in coral reef shrimp is the collection for the ornamental trade, right? So if you see some of my papers or the previous pictures, so what they do is they do scuba diving. So they do go directly to the shrimp environment. So they just get rid of all the fishes and corals, and then they directly catch the shrimp. So they use hooks to get the shrimps out of the crevices, and they use big nets so that they can catch the shrimps and bring back. And what is unfortunate here is out of 100 shrimps, 85% of the shrimps will die after catching. And then 10% of the shrimps will die during the handling purposes. So out of 100, only 5% will reach exactly the harvest, right? So this is like aquarium trade collection itself is one of the detrimental effect, which is combined with the destructive fishing practices. So that I could see is one of the major anthropogenic factor other than climate change, coral bleaching, all others. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it
Thank
from my
you.
side.
Thank you so much, Prakash and McLean. Jyoti, do you have any last questions
Yeah,
to ask? Otherwise, I'll get into it.
I would like to ask Dr.
Yes,
Prakash.
Rajiv.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you said, ornamental trade is detrimental to the survival of these shrimps. So is there any method or any technology which is brought out for breeding, artificial breeding of these especially those species which are important for from the ornamental point of view?
Yeah. Breeding technology has been very well standardized, like by few of the institutes, and then it's already in place. And then I could say the coastal communities as well as the island communities, especially the Lakshadweep Islands. So there, the local communities and the women have been especially trained in, doing the breeding. So the technology has been standardized and then transferred to them, so that their livelihood would also be developed. So we can minimize the pressure on wild population, and we can directly, look for the captive breeding streams. So that could go towards the hobbies as well as it could reach the others for the aquarium.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jyoti, do you have any pressing question? Because we are coming close towards the end. Please
Can you
unmute yourself.
unmute?
Um,
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
can you hear me? Okay, yeah. No, I don't have any questions. I know, like we are running out of time. Just one thing, because that's what makes this whole thing very interesting and complicated. I'm sharing this based on my experience in Sundarbans. So while we are talking about like conserving wild variety or species of shrimp, but at the same time, in Sundarbans, we observe that actually wild shrimp collection is leading to negative impact on many other fish and other creature, because they use very small thin net, and that actually kills other fish and other organisms also. So that's what, like, it's all very interlinked and connected, that how like we see that
Yeah.
it's not leading to even killing of other creatures, like other aquatic species.
Yeah, thank you, Jyoti. Thank you so much. I was holding my questions from both of your presentations, so I still would like to ask questions. First question to Prakash: when you were presenting about the life of shrimp through how they have a social behavior from their personal mating to forming a colonies kind of thing. When you talk about it, are we talking about like, do shrimps exist in one kind of shrimp in one kind of water, or are there different kinds of shrimps in one kind of water? Help me understand as a child, because I am not getting the idea where are which kind of shrimps existing. Because what
Okay.
was very interesting
It's
for
like,
me to learn that shrimps also exist in marine water. That was the first thing I
yeah.
learned today. So how is it?
So it's like a different kind of a shrimps in one water.
Okay. So they make colony with like human beings. We have all kinds of colors of people, all heights of people. So that's good
Yeah,
to know.
yeah.
So they are very social animal in that sense. So
Exactly. Yeah.
and
And
when they,
you
sorry.
also have like different groups of, uh, like if you see in a sea anemone, so there
Hmm.
will be crab, there will be fish, and there will be shrimp, which are coexisting together.
Okay, and of course with the
All
corals
three are
and the
living together.
plankton, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's one
yeah.
thing good to know. And so I have very simple questions like a nursery school child, to be honest, because that's the whole idea that we get to know these creatures. Then when you talk about they have different postures of mating. So I also got intrigued with the Kama Sutra kind of thing that we have. So I'm really trying to link it how every creature has a life very similar to the way we are. We are so well documented, and as Maclean rightly pointed out, that we are data deficient, which also means that we are studying less about the biodiversity of the planet. So when they are when they have the mating, and so who is bearing the eggs, and how many days it takes, and what is the number, like let's say a 5 centimeter, what is the size of the shrimp depending on when they mate? The studies which you have done, of course, because we know that shrimps have from 3 centimeter to, as you mentioned, to even king prawn I saw in Sundarbans as big as, a feet long. I mean, that was for me something very astonishing. What is the capacity of egg bearing, and how many days it takes for these babies to
So
grow up?
overall, it could vary from few hundreds to lakhs, right?
Ooh.
So in terms of commercial prawns, I think Dr. Rajiv will also agree with me. There will be like 2 lakh to 3 lakh eggs of commercial prawns will be released in the water, right? But in terms of a coral reef shrimp, which I have been working on for the past few years, and there you can find from 600 to 2000 eggs,
Hmm.
right? Again, it varies in free living forms. It varies in associated forms. In associated forms, you could rarely see between 200 to 400 because of a predation pressure. There will be like the eggs will not be matured, and then mate guarding or parental care is also much efficient in terms of smaller shrimps, right? But in terms of free living shrimps, where you can find like 600 to 2000 eggs, there won't be much of uh, parental care. So if you have more eggs, less parental care, right? Because the survival will be less, and you have less eggs, there will be more parental care, and then survival will also be more, right? It's kind of a trade-off or like kind of inverse relations
And
between all this.
and is it studied in both wilderness, means nature? So I was also a bit worried when we were using the word wild shrimp. So is it what we're calling about fish available in natural water, and fish, of course, which is in the nursery?
Yes,
And so
yes.
do you see this pattern same in both kinds of water systems?
The pattern will definitely change because in wild you have variety of food, right? So the condition is pristine, like everything is natural timing, right? But in terms of captive breeding, we are controlling the entire condition, right? So
Okay.
temperature would be controlled, oxygen would be controlled, light would be controlled, right? And then whatever the food you are giving is also controlled, right? So you can't feed them like morning you give fish, afternoon you give like pizzas, right? How you eat meat,
Yes, it's like
how we eat
again the
in a
human
variety, right?
beings.
So it will
Yeah.
be like kind of some commercial food which would be feeding them morning, afternoon, and evening, right? So the feeding is also controlled. But in wild, whenever you want, you can have whatever the food you want, right? So the pattern is definitely different in wild as well as in the captive
So,
condition.
so there are comparative studies. That brings me to a very
Yes,
simple
yes.
question to Maclean, because if I have to know two simple things between a difference between a freshwater shrimp and a marine water shrimp, and I have actually asked this question in every biodiversity series, but unfortunately, because we study them very less, I will still ask this question. This has been my favorite questions, and it is the psychological part of a species, because we have a tendency thinking as the top of this food pyramid, and we also have emotions, we also have feelings, blah blah blah. So, Maclean, is there any study that tells us that they also have feelings, or what is it? Why do they socialize with each other? How do they find their mates? And so you have two questions, and then we close. Thank you.
Okay, so initially I'll talk about whether shrimps have feelings or whatnot. So
That's an
usually we
important
say,
question for me.
yeah. So Usually we say that crabs or crustaceans in general, they do not feel pain, so it wouldn't be a big deal if we just randomly, while we preserve them or when we cook them. But what I have observed, this is not based on studies or anything like that. It is based on my personal observation.
Hmm.
That, like for example, I had a macrobacterium species, like a little bit of story time kind of thing. I had a macrobacterium species, and every time I would feed it at, like, for example, 9 in the morning. So over the time, the shrimp knew when I entered the fish room, the shrimp knew that I'm gonna come and feed it. So at one point in time, what happened is that even if I just put my hand inside, the shrimp would come and sit on my hand and would eat from my hand. So that is when we cannot say that they do not understand, because if they did not
It's
understand, they would not
clear.
form groups.
Yes. So it's
Yeah.
almost like domesticating animals. They also get to know that yes, someone is coming and giving them food.
Yeah.
Food, yeah, exactly. So every time I would on the light, the shrimp would know that this is the feeding time. So the shrimp would come front, it would wait for the feed. And if I do not feed it, the shrimp would move left and right because it knows that this is the feeding time. So the shrimps do feel,
Wow.
uh, they,
That's a
they do feel,
good
and
sign to show that they also can sync with emotions. And what do you think?
100%.
If I have to tell a child about these different worlds of shrimp, how will I tell that there are shrimps in freshwater, and how do we identify them?
Oh, I would say this is a bit difficult thing, even though I have
Okay.
been doing it from last 2 to 3, like 4 to 5 years in total. Because in general, people, at least in India, I've seen people do not believe that shrimps could be found in freshwater environments. It is mainly
Hmm.
because, like, for example, I come from a coastal city where
Hmm.
if you go outside, you only like around 2 kilometers from my house, there's a big landing site, and you get tiger prawns, etc. And these have dominated the market. So every time, even at least when I started it, people told me that freshwater shrimps did not exist. Like every time I
Hmm.
would tell people that okay, I found freshwater shrimps, they would say that freshwater shrimps do not exist. It is only the marine species which exist.
Okay.
And when I said it's carried in a macrovachin, it is not even on the species level, people do not know it. It is also on a genus level. Species level identification is always difficult.
Yes.
But even on a genus level, people do not know how many genera of freshwater shrimps are available. So I think the
Hmm.
first thing what we can do is that whenever we are taking their bird guides, butterfly guides, where people take them to the wild and they show that, okay, this is a bird or this is the name of the species. In the same way, we can educate the younger generation, saying that we can take them to the wild and show them, okay, this is where the shrimp is found, or this is what the shrimp looks like, and this is very different from the saltwater counterpart, and why it is different. The habitat would be different, the way they look, it is different. We do not consume them, and all those things can be added overall.
Absolutely. And we need to have a very good story about shrimp. And I recall we had actually in Friday Waters very recently when we talked about life of Mahasir. And I think these kind of stories can make a huge difference in the way. Another thing which came into my mind, which we will may discuss later on, this all this diving business, because I am always interested in diving, but I just realized when Prakash was speaking about it, the whole idea of tourism and diving for economy itself asks ethical questions, because if people go down to not only see but come back with a bunch of exploitation, then we really need to question. Rajiv, we are really running out of time. I have to catch train, but if you have anything which can be said in few seconds, I can. Okay, I invite you for joining us as a speaker, but before I let you go, it's really an honor to have Prakash and McLean speak about such a wonderful species, very understudied species. And thank you, Nitya, for organizing this session with them and taking all the coordination effort in the background. And Jayati, as always, continuing this biodiversity series. I think you are motivating us to continue talking to these wonderful species. Thanks all to all the participants who have been joining us over these years. We are, as I said, we are really looking forward to continue this conversation beyond 400 sessions in W4W, but beyond 200 sessions at Wednesdays for Water. And we will let you go before, after we announce that next Wednesdays for Water is on 4th of March, again on a very important issue, and it is part of the water anxiety series. when we talk about Great Nicobar, a social and ecological crisis in Great Nicobar Island. And you saw that yesterday, Supreme Court itself also cleared the whole business of cutting trees and destroying mangroves. So we will have very important discussion next Wednesdays for water, which is in fortnight. Next Monday, we are actually closing our Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water with 100 sessions approaching. And with our 100th session is with Dr. Veena Srinivasan to celebrate the 100th session of Well Labs. That's on February 2nd. Sorry, not February 2nd. It's next Monday coming up, and on 23rd of February, when we also having a chance to have Medha Patkar do a separate session on the same day to celebrate 100 sessions of Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water. With this, I close this session for today, and thank you so much all of you for joining us, and we look forward to having next biodiversity sometime soon, hopefully next month or the month after. We are usually looking for always speakers, co-speakers, young discussants to be part of the W4W family. Take care and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.